in Arctic temperatures and cold temperatures. And there was an older Dryas that died out. That was during the Pleistocene, which was the last ice age. And when 4 extraterrestrial objects, they don't know whether they were meteors or comets or whatever. They just know they were big, they were heavy, and they were moving about 70,000 miles an hour in mass. They came over the top of Canada, hit Saginaw, Michigan, knocked ice all the way from Saginaw, Michigan on the corner of Lake Erie, all the way to North Carolina. And they produced what they call the Carolina Bays, which are these depressions in the earth that water is filled up, and they're all going in the same direction. So they know that whatever hit going in that direction, it was a bunch of pieces. It particleized the Laurentide ice sheet. The Laurentide ice sheet was a sheet of ice that was on the top of the United States, the North American continent. It was 2 miles thick. When these comets came in, one was an airburst, which set the bottom half of North America all the way down into Mexico on fire, and it liberated gajillions of gallons of water by melting it. Flash steam went up over 32,000 feet, and that steam turned to ice particles in the atmosphere, which blocked out the sun. It also created freshwater inland tsunamis that went out into the Gulf and that went out into the Atlantic Ocean and changed the North Atlantic current. The North Atlantic current is what gave, after the Ice Age, the temperate climate all over the world, basically. It warmed up, starting to warm up, because the North Atlantic current, when it accepts solar radiation at the equator, that solar radiation is trapped underneath the water because of the salinity of the water. The saline solution keeps that heat trapped, and as the North Atlantic current brings it northward, it liberates that heat and creates a temperate environment. But when this happened, it threw a lot of fresh water into the salt water, diluted it, and that heat, as it came in at the equator, just went right back up. So it plunged the earth into Arctic temperatures once again. And it was called the Younger Dryas because when those Arctic temperatures started again, that flower started to proliferate again. It basically sent, that's why when people talk about North America and they talk about the civilizations that were in North America, they were destroyed by those meteors that came in and destroyed it. And then later on, the giants produced the mounds. Now the people who are misnomer Indians, the indigenous folks on this side of the Younger Dryas, who were here, and there's a whole lot of controversy in that crossing the Bering Strait thing too. You know, what did they eat? Crossing a piece of ice, going into a piece of ice. You know, so there's a lot of controversy, a lot of information is still being drug up, and they're bringing things, new information out every day, every day, every day. And if you're not keeping up with it every day, you don't know what's going on. The ruins in the Grand Canyon. When this happened, when people retreated in Kentucky into diamond caves and the salt mines under the city of Detroit and other places where they went to hide because the temperature plunged almost overnight. That's when they talk about the mammoths being flash frozen with food still in their mouth undigested, and they stand and froze because when that cold came in, it froze everything pretty much. And then you had predators on the North American continent. But we'll get into that. So when this meteor came in and hit, one in the air reset the place that's called Atlanta now, all down here. This was on fire. Just like they're talking about in Australia there was fire. Then they they were talking about in the Amazon there was fire. But even in our news dealing with Africa, they never told you that Africa was on fire twice the amount that was going on in the Amazon at the same time. But they called the Amazon the lungs of the earth. Africa was just, you know, you get burned down. Don't matter. We ain't gonna, you know, give the news on it. Because there's still that prejudice there that is not telling the truth, that is not giving the information, and we are suffering because of that. So it would set off a cascade that we're still in the midst of the effects of these 4 extraterrestrial events that came over and changed the landscape of the earth. So that, just to give you a kind of visual of the height of these waves, you know how you throw a rock in the pond and, you know, waves come. You know, it was, let me see here. Okay. This is the size of the waves that we're going across. If this hit New York or Chicago or Atlanta, you would have nothing left. These waves were the height of the Sears Tower, moving at 1,000 miles an hour across the landscape. You couldn't escape. If you wasn't down in some cave someplace or in the right exact spot, you was hit. So all that running, you might as well sit down and enjoy your last 30 or 40 seconds on the beach, because you ain't got to outrun this. Even if you're in your car. This thing is moving close to 1,000 miles an hour. How you gonna run that? So this is all dealing with mushrooms, because it changed the fauna and flora of the North American continent and Mexico and South America. So this is where the hit is, because, you know, the Great Lakes, the water in the Great Lakes is filled by meltwater from the glaciers. So it knocked ice all the way from Michigan. That was you? Oh, okay. And this is evidence for extraterrestrial impact 12,900 years ago that contributed to the Megafauna extinctions and the Younger Dryas cooling. So they have a impact group where 60 different professors from 60 different universities are studying this in peer review, and this is the new science of what happened at that particular time on Earth, and it's fascinating information. This is the debris field from the impacts. You see, it didn't really affect Africa as much. That's why you have the megafauna still in Africa. Megafauna is any mammal that is over 100 pounds. It basically had what was called impact proxies. You had nanodiamonds that are made from tremendous heat and tremendous pressure. Microspherules, mini magnets, buckyballs, iridium, ruthenium, the platinum group metals, platinum, palladium, and others. Gold, because all that stuff comes from outer space. That's why, I'm also a martial artist, that's why the greatest swords on earth are made from meteor iron. That's why in Indonesia, the magical crystals are made of meteor iron. King Tutankhamen's 2 daggers are from a metal that is unheard of on earth, because they got it from metal that was from the interior of Africa in the Congo, where meteors impacted the earth like the big ones before, but at millions and millions and millions of years before. That's why in ancient Kemet you had such a high level of knowledge and understanding, because of what they were eating. Because when the inundation period comes, when the waters from the interior of Africa, because the interior of Africa is the highlands. That's why the Nile flows from the interior, which is in the south, down north, because that's what highland is, like this. But it would bring silt and these exotic minerals from the interior down the Nile. And when they had the flooding, before they put in the Swan Dam and others, when they would have the flooding, that's what made Kemet significant. You could grow food in the desert because when the Nile swelled out, it left these exotic minerals, some call it ormus, that they used to make the exotic metals out of, and exotic powders that were ingested. It was also in the greens and in the sweet peas and all the stuff they was growing. So the average people were getting these exotic metals from what was drugged all the way down the Nile into the lower portions and lower parts, which gave us the ability to be able to open up these higher functioning informational centers in the brain, also connecting to our DNA because it intercalated into the DNA. In other words, it bonded with the DNA as informational structures. And utilization of the mushroom opened these DNA pathways up for us to be able to decode that information. And these are just, some of the different things, nanodiamonds, like I said, black mat layer, impact proxies, things like this. The extinction of the megafauna. North America had horses that were killed out during this Younger Dryas impact. When the Spanish first came to North America, they didn't have horses because all the horses were killed and drowned out. So they brought the Spanish horses in. That's where the people of misnomer Indian got horses from the Spanish, and they called them big dogs because, it could be a big dog. These were the short-nosed bear. The short-nosed bear was twice the size of a grizzly. It was the most ferocious predator in North America. It ate and killed everything it encountered. So family groups of 60 and 70 with spears coming in and encountering these type of predators, that's the size of that bear in relationship to humans. There were 4 different types of elephants in North America, 2 of which the mammoth and the mastodon, that were killed out. The North American camel. Camels come from North America. The dire wolf. If you see GOT, Game of Thrones, and you see the wolves that Jon Snow and Arya Stark and all of them got when they were kids, the wolves that are this tall, those were the dire wolves that were killed out. The timber wolf and things like that, maybe they was in a hole someplace or in a cave, they made it. Is that thing? I don't know. Okay, the dire wolf. Computer. Earl Grey tea. And the computer from the virtual realms where quarks and gluons and other subatomic particles build particle by particle the saucer. It builds the cup. It builds the water molecules. It excites the water molecules to the perfect temperature for Earl Grey tea. It creates the Earl Grey tea out of nothing. Magic. And these organic technologies are still within you and I. It's the next phase of our development. It's not about going back to the past. We look at the past, we like it, we love it, it was great. But this is a forward escape out of the human into the mystery. And we're looking at it. It's there, it's coming. Now there's other entities and other folks and other things that are trying to stop that because they don't want you and I to be able to access that way. All that Neo stuff and stuff like that. They shoot you standing out there naked and they shoot the bullets and you just go, and all the bullets dropped. Then years and years and years in one evening. It's the missing link. It's what ties it all together. It's what ties the crystals in a circle with the big crystal in the middle. Tapestry, same thing. This is from The Shadow with Eric Baldwin. And this, the general is showing how tapestries are used. I just use these as examples so you can